a long-awaited review on this Nissan Cube. Now some of you might be thinking this is just a box on wheels. Well, give it a chance. It's actually better than you might think. It certainly surprised me. This one's a 2005 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol with an auto gearbox. It's got the column gear shift inside, which I'm getting kind of used to by now. It seems to be very common on Jap imports, but like I said before, UK cars it's very rare to see that. You might also notice this one ain't standard. The bottom section of the bumpers has a lovely black vinyl wrap on it. After it came into the UK, it's got a set of coilovers on it and an interesting set of wheels. Personally speaking, I would have gone for a larger set, but a lot of that's personal preference. It's also had privacy tints and a couple of minor changes inside. Now the hater in me wants to say it looks a bit like an old washing machine, but at the same time, it's kind of a cute, quirky kind of look that grows on you. The longer you look at it, the less you hate it. Alright, we've done enough with the outside, let's have a little look at the inside. So we'll start with the way the door cards are. Everything's all matched up pretty well, and there's a rather quirky thing going on with these door handles. I apologize about the shadows, it was the way it was parked. I find it a lot easier to do it indoors than I do outdoors, but you know, I've got to get used to doing videos not at my yard. It makes things much easier for me if I can travel to them. You'll notice there as well, door pockets, switches, it's all pretty standard stuff. And here's the thing that really did surprise me. You can just practically step into this car. There's no struggling to get in or out, and you'll notice there's plenty of adjustment when it comes to the seat. The steering column only goes in and out, which is a bit unfortunate. But you'll also notice that back here, when I sit in, I've still got plenty of legroom. And there's enough space in the front to be comfortable as well. So that was really quite something for a car as small as this. And then finally, everyone seems to think when they look at the photos that there's actually a 3-bench there. But in fact, still only 2 seats with an armrest in the center. Well, the interior aesthetics are very similar to the outside. They're squared and boxy with a little bit of rounding off of the edges. And it's not really too bad a look for it. You can see that everything's simple in its layout. I'm probably going to show you some better shots of that in just a second. But overall, you can get a feel from here that the steering wheel is simple in its design. The center console is very minimalistic. They've gone for a column gear shift, which I think is wonderful. In this, that means you don't need a center console, it gives you more space. And they've managed to fix the parking brake problem by putting it on the floor like they do in a lot of imports. As you can see, it's push on and push off. Well, Nissan, you've done it again. I don't know, every single import Nissan I've looked at so far has problems with its interior lights. These front ones don't light up when you open the door. Only this back one does. Why is that? It wouldn't have been hard to fix, you know? Just gets on my nerves. So up front, what do we have? Well, we have a couple of blanks, which is unfortunate. But also, if I can avoid the shadow somehow, you can see here you've got the mirror adjustment and obviously the obligatory UK fog light switch. Coming in over here, you'll notice the dials are very simplistic. There's not really a lot going on with that. But it's perfectly readable and there's nothing particularly wrong with it. If anything, it suits the car's minimalistic style very well. The original stereo from Japan is in here and yeah, it's workable, but the fact is it's a standard double-DIN slot, which means you don't need a special adapter. And getting hold of the ISO connectors is really easy. Interestingly enough, a strange pocket. It's quite deep, but I don't think it's good for many things. The central vents are just, well, you know, square and ordinary, I guess. And the climate control unit's quite funny, especially the way it lights up. I'm going to show you that in a second. Right, there we go. Now I've turned on the ignition. You'll notice here that the climate control is really simplistic. Everything fits on that screen. It's very readable. And it just does exactly what it's supposed to do. Very effective. Now, this down here is a funny 12-volt socket. I would imagine this little flimsy segment here is very easy to break. So that's something to note. And then you've got your standard kind of ashtray thing that people just tend to stick receipts and coins in more than anything. Underneath that, well, you've obviously got this lovely netting here where your normal center console section would be. Now the armrest itself for the front, which I discussed earlier, Opens up and is quite useful. And you still have plenty of legroom in the front. This thing is quite good when it comes to legroom for everyone. It's very generous. Now, another thing you'll notice is, like, say, Peugeots and some other cars, this thing has twin glove boxes. The top one is, well, should it even be there? It's pretty much useless. The bottom one is very oversized. That's impressive. Soft velour style interior. Yeah, that might look nice and it might be soft to sit on, but you get a stain in that and you've got a big problem getting it out. Also, the 3 bench is kind of small. As with a lot of Japanese cars, I wouldn't like to be the guy in the middle with the lap belt. Which means you might as well use it as an armrest and a couple of cup holders. Much better. It's very hard to get across to you how it feels inside from any of the seats. It gives you that sort of safety and security feel. Like you can trust it. And also, even though the windscreen is a little low for my liking, you never feel like you can't see anything, generally speaking, and there's always plenty of room for everyone. Funnily enough, this is the complete opposite of what I expected looking at the outside. Sometimes looks can be deceiving. That's how the rear door functions. Excuse the bad shadows, I'm trying to deal with the harsh sunlight today. But as you can see here, the amount of space you have in the back is way more than I thought there was going to be. Okay, there's not a lot of individual little cubby holes and storage areas, but that's a lot of space. And then, of course, if you lift that, there's even more underneath. If you were to take out that space saver, or even just stack stuff around it, you'd be amazed how much room you have. I think you might even have space for a full-size spare wheel in here if you were interested in doing that. And they do have a little door pocket right here on the rear door, which is nice as well. Now, according to David, when I spoke to him, they do a 7-seat version of this thing, which is slightly longer. I will have to try and look at one of those at some point. The power plant is a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, and it's connected to a 4-speed CVT automatic gearbox, which I found very good out on the road. It's not winning any drag races, but it's quite capable. I was expecting a kick down harsh enough to give you whiplash, but again, I was surprised. Alright, so we know it drives well, it's pretty practical, and yeah, it's a bit funny looking. But okay, how much do you expect to pay for one of these? This one's up for sale at £5,000, but I've seen them anywhere between £3,000 and £7,000, depending on condition, age, and mileage. Would I own one myself? Well, I've got 3 kids, so it's not much good to me. So I'm not going to drive this one on camera because I've already done the test drive on it another day when I was here. The first day I was passing through, I didn't get time to get any footage. But what I will say about it is that 1.5 litre engine doesn't feel horrendously underpowered. It feels just about right for what it is. The gearbox is very responsive and it delivers throttle really quickly. You don't tend to have any funny issues with changing gears up or down or any of other stuff that I would have ordinarily expected from, say, a small automatic car. I was actually very impressed with its power delivery. The other thing that's interesting, it feels very assured on the road. It doesn't feel like a small car, but the turning circle, that's just utterly incredible. You can full lock that thing and it'll practically turn on the spot. It's actually mind-blowing. I've never experienced anything like it. I guess the question is, would I buy one? Well, personally for me, with 3 children, it's not really big enough for me. But if it wasn't for that, I don't see I'd have any objection to it. It's maybe a little slow for my liking. But overall, you can't beat its practicality, and it's kind of got a lovable charm about it. Anyway, till next time, look after yourselves. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw, and check out some of our other videos that I've made. And as always, if you want your own car featured in a video or something, I'm usually quite active on Facebook. You can get in touch with us or PM us about it there.